Hello. Glad to see you all. Tonight, it's our annual meeting for the year. We'll have elections later in the agenda. And tonight we have two speakers that will be here. Todd Bowling, which you all know from repeated tours here from Northwest School District. And then we have Wendy Van Buren, who is from the Ohio Urban Forestry. And she'll talk to us later about our green belts. The first thing we'd like to do is just kind of give you an overview, a real quick overview of what we did last year with the Civic Association. In the spring, we started off the year with an Easter egg hunt here at John Wesley. We did it inside the building because of inclement weather, and we blew up a ton of balloons in the building behind us and hid the eggs, and the kids had a great time. We had a magic show, we had games, crafts, we had a raffle, and I think everybody had a great time. We followed that in May with a garage sale, and that had some inclement weather, but there were a few people who were still out there looking for bargains. Seems like May is often a rough time for garage sales and weather. Then we had our 4th of July event, and this year we changed the route. We went down Elkwood, we went to Forester, and then around Hazel Grove. And after we had the parade, everybody went to the ball field. We had treats. In the parade, we had a fire truck, we had police cars, we had the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts. We had a really good time. It was hot though.
Really hot.
And then our big event for the year was in December when we had Holiday in the Farms. And there, again, we had our Luminaire. We are trying really hard to sell Luminaire kits and get the farms lit, and a lot of people participated. This year there were more houses with lights on them, so the farms looked, I think, much more festive than it has probably in the last 10 years. We also had a limo ride, which was different than the trolley ride we had in the past year, and that proved to be extremely successful. We had videos in the limo, and it was really neat. We had Santa, who went around the neighborhood. In past years, we've had Santa with the fire department. This year, for 2018, we had trouble with getting the volunteers from the fire department. These fellows are paid to do this, but it's extra in their schedule, and we weren't able to do it. So one of the residents here in the farm, Dave Grisham, he volunteered to go around. John Bushman drove through the farm, and they did a nice tour, and then they came back here, and Santa met with the kids for an hour, hour and a half, and they loved it. And here in the trolley depot, or I should call limo depot, we had snacks, face painting, crafts, we had letters to Santa, table games, bingo, and we had a movie. So overall, it proved out to be a really great evening. For athletics, in the spring, we fielded 14 teams of boys and girls playing baseball and softball. We began our registrations in January and practices in March. The games themselves began in April and ran to mid-July. There were 125 players on these teams, and they ranged in age from 4 to 16. And then PRF hosted the Major League Baseball pitch, hit, and run, and we hosted both the local tryouts and the sectionals in May. We also participated in the Reds Kid Glove game. This is where local baseball teams sell tickets to select Reds games. The bulk of the proceeds are returned to us, and I think, was it just a month or two ago that we got some equipment from them?
Yep.
So it really works out well for us. For the swim club, last year we had a membership fee that was $398. And we had 56 members. We had a lot of complaints last year. We had complaints the previous year about how much it was costing. And when we get to the swim club, Ed will talk about that for this year. But we ended up, we had total expenses of $26,700 for the season, and we ended up with an income of $1,100, which is amazing, and it's mainly because people like Ed, who coordinated the swim club, and he was assisted by Kevin Puccini and by Penny Anderson. It's all the free labor that keeps everything going. Pardon me?
Aaron Knox.
As well, quite a bit.
Oh, yes, Aaron, where? There's, okay.
Can't forget Aaron.
Okay, and then during the year, Jalissa Harris redesigned our memo. So the Pleasant Run memo took on a totally new look, a great look, and really kind of pushed us into what graphics are today. So they're kind of exciting each time they come out because they're always different. She's doing a great job there. We received a township grant from Springfield Township for improvements in the parking area and the community building in front of the swim club. And we hired a landscape architect to come in. He did the plantings and all the repairs. We repaired the fence going down the left side of the parking area. We painted things, and I think we look significantly better than we were looking at that time. We also were able to get the township to work on repaving 3 of our streets. We did Cedar Creek, Canfield, and Centerbrook. I really got my fingers crossed on that one because this year we thought we were going to get some roads done, and it doesn't look like we are. So you know, it's something that we just keep pushing and pushing on. So that is everything that kind of summarizes last year of what we did. And while I'm at the roads, let me go on to this year with the roads. We thought that the township was going to get a grant through the state, and I'm sorry, not the township, a combination of the township and Hamilton County, to redo Kemper Road going from Hamilton Avenue down to Mill. It's really in bad shape now. Tied in with that, the township was going to do
Brookway,
Brookway. I want to say Brookfield, sorry.
Hill Rose, Galloway, and a piece of Broadhurst.
Yeah, and we thought that was going through up until a couple of weeks ago, and now we're told that the county did not go after the funding from the state to do those repairs or do the Kemper repair. So we have lost our road development in the farms for this year. The township is doing 2 major renovations down in the Finneytown area this year. After the governor went to his balancing his budget, a lot of the funds that the township was getting for road repairs really was pulled from us. It's just not coming in. So what the township is doing this year is they're buying equipment so that they can go in and do some repairs, some small repairs to our streets. And they'll go in and they'll grind the old asphalt out and then repave, and they'll do sections going from about 25 feet up to a maximum of 200 foot long. They said they can do 12-foot wide sections of the road. So they will come through the farms and they'll do some repairs. The fellow who handles all that is Mike Gould, And he's going to take 4 of us through the farms, and we will determine which areas should have something right away, because there's some really bad spots in the farms. I know Elkwood, Hazel Grove, a number of them have really difficult things. So I'll stop talking now, and I'll move right along to the officer reports, and if we could, the treasurer report. This is Ed.
Hello. Hi, welcome. Oh, yeah, sorry. There's some forms there too. First, I'll talk on the PRFCA Treasurer's Report for 2019. Basically describes the income since our last meeting, January 15th, as well as for the year-to-date as of 2019. Basically, it was a slow month. We had 4 memberships, so $100 come in. We paid $309 in bank charges for the beauty of getting the online forms. So go to prfarms.org and you can sign up for your memberships, or there's forms over on the table as well. Great deal for $25. So I bought postage at $20 before the price went up. And then the real estate taxes on the Greenbelt properties came in at $77.62. So we lost 71 cents for the month. Year to date, got $125 in memberships. $1,044 for our insurance was paid out. And therefore, that's why we have a minus $1,019.71 income for year to date. That's why we need some memberships. Our ending balance is $1,448.89. Any questions on that? The second forms, at this meeting, I'm required to go through budgets and get budgets approved for the year. So there's a PRFCA budget along with the athletic budget on one page, and then on the back is the swim club budget. So, pretty much went off the actuals for last year. We built in possibly going after another grant this year. We pay 10% of the grant money for that. So that's something we'll have to discuss if we're going after, but I did build that into the budget. It does show us making $4,719.28, but that's a little skewed because there's money coming over from the pool for a loan repayment as well as for the insurance that I'm not sure that will happen. So that happens to equal that same amount. So, but if all goes well, and they're behind on both of those, so that's why that's written as such. So, and then the athletic budget's there, and the column over here, and then like I said, the pool budget's on the back. So, any questions on those? If not, I guess we need to make a motion to approve the budgets, which I will do.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I guess all in favor?
Aye.
Was that a question or an aye? Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Members of the Civic Association vote, because I hear a lot more ayes if there's only,
Any no's? Okay, one aye is good then. Okay.
I'm just asking if
You're right, you have to be a member to vote.
you have to be members vote. And if based on membership, there should be only 5 members that can vote. Is that correct?
What?
Based on
No, there's people that joined at the end of last year,
Yeah,
and
there's
like in
more than
November.
Oh, I'm sorry, we did we started in August of last year to get memberships for this year. So the budget page will show your actuals. So it'll say 2019 Memberships were,
But that's a budget.
1,300, no, 2018 actual next to the 2019 budget. So, does that make sense or not?
Is your question how many people are
I
members?
didn't see 2020 membership on there, so that confuses me.
Well, that's because we're going to get, the 2020 is also the 2018 amount, so we had $735 of 2018 membership last year. We got $1,340 of 2019 memberships in 2018. Yes, Susan? We generally start membership drive in like October when the hard copy memo comes out so that people can be members the whole year long. So, does that make sense? So that's why we have $1,340 of people that joined last year and only $125 of people that have joined so far this year. So, does that make sense? Susan, you still unclear? All right, thank you.
Athletics, anything?
Yes. It's the dead of winter, so baseball registrations have started. In fact, we started before Christmas. And emails were sent to all of the parents of all the players of last year's teams in December. And it's followed up by the same emails to those who still have not yet registered in January. We also have attended a couple of the parent-teachers conferences, and with one of our coaches there, with registration forms. We have a lot of students at Pleasant Run Elementary, and it's an opportunity to see one of the coaches face-to-face and sign up. We also have distributed flyers in December, just before Christmas, to all of the students in Pleasant Run Elementary, talking about the age groups that we have, boys and girls teams, and ranges in ages from 4 to almost 16 years old, the teams that we fielded last year. And beginning in February, teams will start getting formed. Beginning in March, we'll start practices. Beginning in April, after the Reds opening day, we'll have our first games, weather permitting. And if Old Man Winter is good to us, we'll be able to start the season on time. And we'll continue right through all the bugs and the mosquitoes into middle of July. And one team will start after May 15th, and that's basically the high school aged players who play at Northwest High School and some of the other schools in the area. We've got enough members on that team to field a team which then plays from May 15th to about the end of July, playing against other school districts here in the northern Cincinnati area. So we're looking forward to a good season. Looks like we're going to have both the fields operating in good shape at Clifford George. And we can always use more players. I think we got enough coaches, but we can send any children or grandchildren, whether they live in Pleasant Run Farms or not, they're eligible to play. All right.
Thank you, John. Mary, community activities?
Hello. We are just kind of getting our calendar together for 2019, so at this point it's kind of a save the date. So we want to get people to save the date. New this year, we are going to participate in the Great American Cleanup, so Saturday, March 23rd. Usually those events start like the first day of spring, which is the 20th. So we are actively seeking leaders for projects. If there's a project that you're passionate about in the neighborhood, an area you would like cleaned up, we would love to get someone to help kind of spearhead some different projects, as well as volunteers to work on the teams. How many projects we tackle will be purely dependent on how many different groups we're able to get. So Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, adult organizations, charity work, any, church groups in the area, anybody that's interested in kind of working as a team to clean something up we're game to get that on the schedule. So keep posted on our social media pages to learn more about that. If you're not on social media, you can email me or call me at any point to get more information about that. We will have our Easter egg hunt, our spring celebration and egg hunt again, hoping again to do it right here at John Wesley. That'll be Sunday, April 14th at 1 o'clock. We will plan on doing it outside in the grass behind, if weather permits, but if not, we have the beautiful gym in the back there that we'll use again. The balloons worked out really well. And we may even decide to do a mixture of that, have the little kids in, but again, snacks, raffle baskets, and just all around good community fun. We packed that gym pretty good last year, so it was a lot of fun and definitely worth bringing the grandkids. There were a lot of farms residents who brought their grandkids. Bring your kids, your neighbors. Love to have them at that. Again, that's April 14th at 1 o'clock. And then again, garage sale coming up. Mark your calendar, Saturday, May 18th. Is when we will have our neighborhood garage sale. So if you've gotten on the Con Marie bandwagon, you're watching a little clutter cutting on Netflix, now's the time to gather stuff up and sell it on the 18th. Obviously, July 4th parade on July 4th. And if you're really looking far out in the future, planning December 8th for our holiday event. But that's a little far away, so I understand if you don't write it down. But we look forward to, many community events here in the neighborhood. It's a great opportunity to meet your neighbors, have a lot of fun. Most all of them are free. Occasionally there's a small charge for some of the snacks depending on what we're doing, but, it's pretty low cost participation. So come out, support, and help our community stay vibrant. And if you want to help with anything, let me know. I'm happy to have help with planning. I'll be here all night.
Thank you, Mary. Monica?
Hey, everybody. I've got a couple announcements, but the first thing I wanted to mention is I'm working on membership cards for this year, so you should be getting those in the foreseeable future. This year is probably going to be my last year, or I'm going to be stepping down from this position just because I have so much going on. So if anybody is interested in membership, please run. I'm going to stick around though, because I can't just leave the Civic Association high and dry. But I'll be working with the board on some other things, but my plate is extremely full and I have to give a couple things up. Other thing that I want to mention, I think this is really important. I know that Gwen McFarland, many of you all know our beloved Gwen, who is like always here for us in this community. She's been around for us for a long time, but she is not going to run for re-election. And so she's stepping into some other critical roles. But I just wanted to make that announcement. I don't know if any of you all have heard that yet, but I think it's really important that we get someone to run, hopefully for the trustee position from this side of the district, specifically in the farms, because she is our representation. I know there's a heavy presence in Finneytown, but she lives out this way, and she's always kind of been on the front lines advocating for the farms. And so I just want to make sure that we don't lose some of that advocacy for our community. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. I do know right now, I think we have over 40 memberships, and I have 2 more for you tonight. So like I said, if anybody's thinking about running or is interested in volunteering in some capacity, membership is awesome. The board is awesome to work with, so try to think about that. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Monica.
Sure.
Jalissa, anything on the memo?
All right, so my name is Lisa. I do the memo. You guys are all welcome to submit articles. I would love for you guys to submit articles. As of right now, I do not have that much participation from the neighborhood. So I can give my contact information, and any type of article you can think about, we welcome. So, yeah.
Thank you. Ed, do you want to talk about the swim club?
Sure. Swim club, there's membership forms over there. I handed a bunch out. You know, we cut the price in half this year to try to more than double membership. We off to a pretty good start. We need a good finish. You know, if you were thinking you weren't going to join because you weren't sure if it was going to open, well, go ahead and join because we plan to open. We do need a lot of volunteers. The memo kind of spelled out a lot of those different positions. If we can't find one person that wants to do it all, because it is a very large job that Susan and Aaron have done a great job with in the past. But the front page of the memo basically talks about, you know, there's a swim club director to stand here and talk to the board and to the community. You know, Aaron right now mows the lawn. We need a lifeguard scheduler / manager. That's probably the biggest position we need. A pump room and building maintenance. Kevin Puccini helps out with that. Concession buyer. Aaron's done a great job with that as well. But all these positions are open. We love to have extra help. Pool chemical purchaser, somebody that makes sure what chemicals we need. A social director, somebody to plan the parties and to schedule the parties and to oversee the parties, and maybe come up with more events. A treasurer, somebody that prepares the budget, pays the lifeguards, the taxes, the bills, deposits the funds. A membership director, to drive membership, and then a spring crew to get the pool ready. There's a lot of hours that go into repairing concrete, you know, pressure washing the deck, to putting out the chairs, to hooking everything back up, filling the pool, checking the chemicals, etc. So, you know, we'll look for in the next door and the Civic Association Facebook. Look for those. Try to schedule those in advance so that people can plan on being there to help out with those events. So, but really, we need volunteers. Any little thing helps. And then we need memberships. So
Each of those positions Ed mentioned is maybe 1 to 2 hours a week, you know, for each individual piece. Each, you know, as a whole, is one person trying to do all of that is pretty intense, but as far as, you know, one person mowing the lawn, you know, that's not a huge, that's the only thing they're doing. So if you can't commit to an entire job worth of things, and if you could just help schedule lifeguards, you could just help with a piece of it, that would help take the burden off what's, you know, the rest of the people that are just pick up the slack. Because it's a lot for the people who are just kind of doing it for the love of the neighborhood. We'd love to get a few more people in. Just every little bit counts.
we realize that it's a huge job for 1 or 2 people, and therefore we're willing to break it down into more functions. So.
We've had a lot of problems trying to get volunteer help just to get the pool ready for opening. And a lot of times it really ends up to be pretty much the people on the board who go out and you know, do all the work involved. We met this past month with the Coalition of Congregations here. There are 4 churches in our neighborhood that work together in doing different community activities, things for the community. And it is John Wesley, Augsburg Lutheran, Pleasant Run Presbyterian, and John Newman that all get together, and they do a fantastic job coordinating everything between themselves. And they've indicated that they will attempt to find us a crew to repaint our buildings that are in the swim club area. We've done a community building. We still have another coat or so to go there, but that one we consider pretty much done. The other two buildings, it's time for refreshing them. And we're hoping that, you know, they'll be able to find volunteers, and we continue to ask for volunteers. We've got according to the census, 4,600 people that live in Pleasant Run Farms. You would think that there would be a few people that could volunteer to, you know, to pitch in, but you know, it's not happening. So, you know, all the help we could get is greatly appreciated. Next item is election of officers, which should go fairly fast.
Did Jerome have anything, or Bert have anything on the scholarship?
All scholarship information is on the table. If you need a scholarship application or instructions, they're there. You can also find them on our website. We have a revised form that fits the 2019 scholarship season. It's ready to go.
And the due date is March 31st for that? It's also at the school, I guess, Northwest?
Yes.
But anyone's eligible that's a member of the Civic Association, lives in Pleasant Run Farms. Susan?
I wanted to thank our Vice President for giving so many free things for all our parties.
Jerome,
You're being very quiet over there. I think everybody should know that you're the one that really helps the food.
The reason why I'm not talking because I've been in meetings all day. My voice is kind of like shot. So that's
Well,
why
I'll just say it for you. We appreciate it.
thank you for the shot. Thank you very much.
Jerome, in the past few years, has been really great in getting dinners together, Thanksgiving dinners for people in the farms. He's been involved in our different events and getting our refreshments and that. He's done a fantastic job, so we greatly appreciate it. So, okay, if I can get right to the election so we can move on to our speakers. Is there anyone who would like to run for a position on our board? Okay. Then, Ed Cameron is currently the secretary. John Bushman handles athletics. Jerome is the vice president. I'm the president. Ed is the treasurer, and he's also coordinated the pool activities for the past year. Mary Barrera, in addition to her real estate work, is our community activities director. And Monica is our membership, and Jalissa handles our memo. So if anyone else is not running, do I hear a motion to accept the current board as the board for 2019? Thank you. And a second? Okay. And all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carry. Okay. Thank you. We have a problem in the farms. We own about 61 acres of property here. The property was deeded to the Civic Association. From what we can tell, looking at the records, in the late 60s to early 70s. They include a very large greenbelt area on the east side of Mill Road that buffers between our streets and where the Omniplex complex is, where Home Depot currently is. And then we have running through on the west side through some of the areas, greenbelt areas, and then we also have one, surprisingly, on the south side of Kemper Road. This past year, we had a tree fall over on the east side of Mill Road. It hit another tree. That tree then fell into one of the neighbors' yards there and took 2 fences out. And since that time, we've been attempting to find out what can we do. As you know, after listening to the treasurer's report, the Civic Association basically has no money. I mean, we operate on a few $1,000s a year and a lot of free labor. So there's, you know, if we hire someone to come in and begin taking down the bad trees, we're looking at, you know, maybe $800 a tree. I mean, it's just not there. Yeah, it's quantity. So tonight, Wendy Van Buren is going to talk to us about the situation, and she'll let us know what our different options are with the property. So Wendy, if you would.
Where would you please stand? I'll speak loud. Can everyone hear me okay? I have a cold, but all right. My name is Wendy Van Buren. I work for Ohio Department of Natural Resources in the Division of Forestry. I'm an urban forester, which sounds like a contradiction, right? Trees in our communities. But trees really make our communities better. I work in 14 counties in southwest Ohio, from Sydney area down to Adams County on the river, so the whole Sydney corridor. I also participate in the Tree City USA Award, so that would be a lot of the communities around you, such as Fairfield and Forest Park and Green Hills, those sorts of communities around you. So what you're dealing with is the dead ash trees, specifically, right? Okay, so ash trees make up approximately 10% of our urban and rural areas in our woods. And in 2003, up in Michigan, we found the emerald ash borer, which is an invasive bug, not native, that kills trees, our ash trees, very quickly in a year or two. And they found it in Ohio, in southwest Ohio in 2006. So this problem is not new, and that's going to become important here in the conversation. So there's dead ash trees, and there's also invasive honeysuckle. So you know when you drive around and you see the green shrubbery at the bottom? That's not supposed to be there. When I was a kid tromping through the woods, you could just walk through the woods. That's not supposed to be there. And that invasive honeysuckle is making it so our native trees can't come up through. So what you're going to find is, if you do nothing, you will have dead trees falling with invasive honeysuckle with nothing coming up through. You'll just end up with green areas of honeysuckle, which is not, it's a monoculture. It's not very good for the ecosystems. So I'm going to give you some options. They're all hard because basically doing nothing is not an option. Since this is a known defect, it's a predictable failure. And if anyone's here in insurance or lawyers, they know that predictable failure means that you knew something was a problem and you didn't do anything about it. You didn't act responsibly. So I'm going to give you a couple options. We can talk about it more. You're welcome to ask questions. This is more of a conversation than a, tree show. I do want to give a little plug that trees are really important. Trees are really important to our community. I have a little top 10 reasons why we need trees. I'm hoping the memo editor here might put it in Facebook and so on. But trees are important to our communities. The green space that fills your community is a rare and unique feature of your community. And not everyone has it. When you have good green space in your community, there's socioeconomic benefits. People are healthier around trees. We heal faster from surgery. Kids have lower rates of ADHD. Kids exhibit less risky behavior, less domestic violence in communities with green space. So there's a lot of really good reasons to have trees in your neighborhood and not just let it fall to the wayside. So I understand you're on a budget, and you're not the only one. Communities all over Southwest Ohio are dealing with this, and no one's rolling in the money, right? There's just not a lot of communities rolling in the money these days. So, the way you can think about your green space is like a dentist analogy. So, it seems like it saves you money if you don't ever go to the dentist, right? Because it's not a proactive fixing your teeth, right? You don't pay that upfront cost. But if you wait and you wait and you wait and you have a dental problem, do you pay more ultimately for that problem, that root canal, that tooth pulling, and so on? So that's kind of what's happened here, is this problem was here in 2006. And when you take down live ash trees, it's less expensive than taking them down when they're dead. The reason for this is because ash trees are pioneer species. The way that they're made is to come in after a flood or a tornado or an incident, colonize an area, grow fast, and then they're made biologically to fall apart so that oaks, hickory, beech can come up through. They're made to be the first ones in and to fall apart. So once they die from emerald ash borer, they fall apart fairly quickly, and any ethical tree company is not going to send their guys up a dead ash tree because of the chance of it failing and someone getting hurt. So you already kind of missed the boat on the best situation, which would have been taking down the ash trees when they were alive. It's about 3 times more expensive once the trees die. So a $200 removal becomes a $600 removal, which is how that number got so high. So bare minimum, due to predictable failure, you have to at least fix the trees that could fall on somebody. So a hazardous tree is that it has a defect and a target, right? So trees that are in the center of your green space where they can't hit anything, they're not a hazard because when they fall, it's okay, right? They just fall. But when there is a target, a building or a playground or something that could be damaged, that needs to be taken care of. So one of your options would be to hire an arborist, an ISA certified arborist, and a tree company who have workers' comp and insurance to take down trees, or at least drop them to the ground so they are controlled and they don't damage anything. So that's one option, and I have some information here on how to hire arborists, and so on with my card. So that's one option, just go around. I can work with you to count how many trees need to come down, but you would still need to hire someone to do that work. Another option would be to work with a consulting forester. Now you do have a service forester with ODNR who can come with you, walk the woods, and create a management plan, help you make some good decisions. But we can't do the actual work. Just like I cover 14 counties, Pat covers 5 counties, and we're all spread thin. For instance, my next available is May, so you just have to wait. You had to wait a good bit of time for me to be able to be here tonight. So you can hire someone to do that work, and what they would do is they'd help you make some decisions as far as timbering, cutting down other trees to make money, but then you'd still have to invest money because if you just cut down trees and not control your honeysuckle, you'll just end up with a field of honeysuckle. So it's not really a money-making situation. You'd also work with your consulting forester to get that next generation of native trees to come up through to be that woods that you want in your community. Finally is there's HOAs and civic groups that I work with to develop like a tree board or a green space board, and that group of volunteers could work with me to create a management plan, to do fundraising, and to have that work done as well. So I'm happy to help guide it, but I can't do it because I can't do it by myself. I need people in the community to decide that that's important to them and be involved. So those are the three options that I think are obvious. If you have any other options, we can talk about them. Does anyone have any other thoughts of things that you could do?
Is there any state funding or any nonprofits that would work with you?
Sure. So one of the questions is state funding. So state funding happened back in 2003 when it was a new problem. There was federal money to help with communities to remove ash trees. But once the full state became quarantined by the federal government, that federal money went to other places that are still dealing with the initial problem. So no, there's no state or federal money to help with this. As far as, yes?
What do you recommend that we do about the honeysuckle? I live on the Infield, and over the years, the honeysuckle has really taken over.
Yeah.
So
one of my favorite things to do on my weekends, not getting paid by the state, this is what I do for fun, is kill honeysuckle. And so I have how to kill honeysuckle information here. It's an OSU fact sheet. There's all sorts of ways. My favorite way is to cut it this time of year because there's no leaves. And then you take Roundup concentrate, glyphosate, and treat just the stump. So you're not spraying, you're just treating that cut. Within 20 minutes of making the cut, after that 20 minutes, it doesn't kill it. And it kills it pretty effectively. You can leave the brush because it breaks down pretty quickly, about 9 to 12 months. There's all sorts of resources, people who hate honeysuckle even more than me. And so if you're interested in that, I could bring in some of those folks to talk to you about ways. I have fact sheets, I have articles, say you want to put something in an article, how you can make a difference cutting honeysuckle and killing it. I have nice little fact sheets from Wild Ones that have 32 ways you can kill honeysuckle. Yeah, like, I can get you information if you're interested, absolutely. And there's lots of groups who kill honeysuckle that you could join them in and then they'll come and help you kill your honeysuckle. So it's one of those nice groups. Yes? Two questions.
Two questions. One is while you're on the honeysuckle, after everybody kills the honeysuckle, the twigs would be great for people to make baskets. Okay? So go to your latest harvest.
There's a recommendation
Make
to
baskets.
make baskets
That's
with
true. Don't throw
honeysuckle.
them away. They are really good. Second, for those that don't know what an ash tree looks like,
Sure.
can you describe what an ash tree or the barn
Sure.
or whatever?
So ash trees, they're a large at maturity shade tree. They have bark that looks like ski slopes. They're opposite bark, so they look like staghorns in the winter. They have pinnately compound leaves. Probably easier than my botanical description would be I could get you some fact sheets, some pictures, and say you have a Facebook page, we could put it links so people could see pictures. I think people are very visual, and that might help them more. Is that fair?
Wendy,
Yes.
when you
Skip.
first talked to me and you brought up the honeysuckle problem, you mentioned that the reason honeysuckle is a problem is that it exudes some kind of a chemical, I believe, into the soil.
Right. So honeysuckle kills other mature trees through alleliopathy. So like walnuts, everyone here knows about walnuts, right? You can't grow any other walnuts. They do the same thing honeysuckle does. So it emits chemicals so that seedlings can't grow up. There's no competition. Also, it can kill mature trees. So even if you have lovely big trees other than ash trees, the honeysuckle can put it into decline. So there's lots of wonderful reasons to get on the bandwagon of killing honeysuckle.
I've got 2 trees I'm going to tell you about. You're going to want to go kill the honeysuckle, maybe before the night's over.
So, can anyone think of other options that I didn't think of? Yes.
I just have a question. I'm curious as to what other neighboring areas are doing. I live in Forest Park, and I know they had a whole effort for helping residents pay for cutting those trees down, and I think they subsidized it. So did they get funding from somewhere, or how could they afford to do it, and is there an option that maybe we could use?
They are a tree city and have a tree board, and they did get funding. I'm pretty sure they got funding with those rounds before the funding disappeared. So they were, as soon as I told them about it, they jumped at it and took advantage of the opportunities.
What do you mean by tree city?
So municipalities and townships, as well as bases, like Air Force bases can be Tree City USA communities, but homeowner associations can't. I'm sorry.
But I assume Springfield Township is not.
No, Springfield Township is not, but it could be if you wanted to.
What is the benefit of them being there?
It's an Arbor Day Foundation program. It's a free program. So benefit isn't direct, but a lot of the standards that we require for grants mimic having the tree programs, because people can have the best tree projects ever, but the trees don't live a long time, right? So we're looking for great tree programs where we know for the next 50 years those trees will be taken care of. So we're looking for, Tree City means that you have a tree board, a tree ordinance, or in the case of a township, a tree resolution, $2 per capita, and celebrate Arbor Day, because it's an Arbor Day Foundation program.
Are pear trees now invasive species?
Yes. So the flowering pear trees, Bradford, Cleveland Select, Red Spire, all the ornamental pears are invasive by Ohio Revised Code, and in very short order will no longer be available to be purchased. Because if you look around, one of the invasives that we'll be removing, as well as honeysuckle, is that flowering pear tree, because it has thorns. It also has glossy leaves that you can't even use Roundup on. You have to use more difficult products to kill it. So yeah, you should not be planting pear trees. So any other questions about your options for your green space?
Doesn't sound good.
I left you some resources, including there's companies that will kill invasive by the acre, and comparatively they're very affordable. They have all the tools. You also have a consulting arborist, consulting forester list. I have certified arborist lists. If you decide to go the timber route, how to do that. Any other questions? I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I only know trees, but I'm good at trees.
I don't have a question for you, but just a general comment, because correct me if I'm wrong, but if a tree from the greenbelt falls on someone's property, it's the homeowner's insurance that covers the damage.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you, Wendy.
All right.
All right, I'm Todd Bowling, Superintendent of Northwest Local Schools. I'm not sure I have much more of an update than I had last time. The district has sold the property to the builder. He is now working with Springfield Township and Chris Gilbert on how to finalize the development. TJ is not available tonight for any questions because his father, who is 84, is declining in health and he's the only caregiver he has. So he could not make it. We were in contact with Chris, so they're working through things, trying to get things started. I don't have a starting date. I don't have anything to really update you on about when the building would start. So first of all, is there any questions about the Welch property in the building? I'm not sure I can answer, but I can try to find an answer for you.
The sale has closed.
The sale has closed.
If there aren't any questions on Welch, talk about the transition of the students into the new building.
Well, I got a couple things. So we are, as a district, looking at a levy in November of 2019. We are having work sessions with the Board of Education. The next one will be Monday, February 25th, at Struble Elementary. And then they have not decided on a location of the second one, or the third one in March. But the purpose of a work session is we will have a general 5-minute meeting at the beginning. We will then divide into tables like this with the board members sitting at each different table like we did in January. And it will be us presenting information to the public on what we are looking at. So as a district, we are in deficit spending. We have lost things like tangible property tax, which amounts to $4.4 million for our district. And what that means is that anybody who had inventory on site in the district, we used to get a tax for that. So companies who would store maybe $1,000 pieces of machinery or parts, we would get taxes on that. That was removed from state funding for schools. We lost 4.4. They also reduced the amount they pay for transportation. They used to cover 60% of transportation costs. They reduced that to 40, so we lost $1 million there. It has been predicted, though, as we've moved forward since 2012, if you go back and watch every board meeting, and that's the problem. Nobody watches board meetings or attends the board meetings on a regular basis, and you don't hear that it's been predicted in 2019 because of the funding formula in the state that we will be in deficit spending, and we are at the sum total of $5 million. Remember, we have about a $120 million budget, so it's not something we can't work through the next year. But after this year is over, there will be a severe deficit that we have to start making cuts. We've already started making cuts and reductions as a district. Some of the things we do right now that are above and beyond what we're required to do is we bus a lot of students. And state law says if you live within 1 mile of a school, the district, or our policy says you do not have to bus those students. We could go back to state law, which is 2 miles. That would be a significant saving for our students, or for a significant saving for the district, but a significant cost for the parents because they have to find a way for transportation to occur. Some things folks will say is, well, you built the new schools and you didn't have the funds to run them. It doesn't really have anything to do with that. This isn't a spending issue, this is a funding issue. Our governor entered office 4 years ago, the past governor, with $10,000 in a rainy day fund. He now has $2.8 billion, not million, $2.8 billion in a rainy day fund. It's pretty easy to see where those funds came from. When you talk about what the township is losing, when you talk about what the school district's losing all across the state. And I think you said something earlier about some road repair money had disappeared. Well, it's pretty evident where this money is going, and it's sitting in a nice bank account, drawing nice interest for the state, but meanwhile it's not coming out to schools or the communities who really need them. So that's led to a lot of the issues. So our points of our discussion is to, one, tell you what we are possibly looking at and what our staffing plan is for the future. And when I say staffing plan, we have to make some changes. When we built the new schools, we tried to cut corners with staff, and so we have 2 principals trying to deal with 950 kids. It's not working. 2 principals evaluating 26 teachers each, evaluating 18 additional classified aides each, and then dealing with the discipline on a daily basis. So you've got kids being sent to the office, sitting there for an hour at a time. That's not working. So our staffing plan is going to recommend we add dean of students to all 3 of the new elementary schools. A dean of student is paid on a teacher's salary. They're a teacher who is looking into getting administration, trying to build internally, build within our own folks into administration as they move forward. We also added counselors last year. We want to add additional counselors, but that takes money. But with the mental health needs that are walking through the doors and some of the things we are seeing, one of the counseling positions added at each school would be very beneficial. So when you put these staffing plans together, we're going to present them next Monday night. We're going to ask the community for feedback. We're going to start to talk about what have we added since 2015 that has added additional funds to the district. I've already spent the last board meeting, and if you pull it up on Waycross, or if you want more information, I'll be glad to forward it to you, of all the cuts we've made since 2015, the reductions we have made. Obviously, one of the first things that come up for anybody is you have too many administrators. And so I've got handouts or I've got PowerPoints I can share with you that if you look at the administration we have compared to surrounding districts, we are much lower than anybody else. Remember, we have 9,000 students and we have 1,200 employees. And we have 10 folks in central office who are administrators, and then we have 2 building principals at a 950 person building. I'm sitting here and telling you, it's just not enough. We need teachers to be able to teach. We need all kids to be able to excel, and we need to do a better job with what we're doing internally. Again, I look at this as a funding issue and not a spending issue, and it is something we will work on in February, March, April, and May, and then come with the facts of what we need to do in August. So the next 3 months are very important. We will make presentations to the board, possible cuts, possible additions, and try to remove $5 million from our budget. What does that look like in terms of staffs? It's going to be 10 to 12 administrators. It's going to be 30 to 40 teachers. If it doesn't pass, it'll put class sizes in K through 3 up to about 30 each. Right now, they currently sit at 23, 24, and 25. And it's not a fun thing, but if you look at what we spend per pupil, we spend $8,300 per pupil. Surrounding districts are anywhere from $10,000 to $14,000 per pupil because they have continuously passed levies and they have continuously put more money into their schools. What causes us to need more money is a very key thing. So we built new schools, we knew enrollment would improve. It did. We gained 300 students. We're now over 9,000 again. The last couple of years we dipped to 8,700, 8,800. We're now over 9,000. Problem is, the way schools are funded, and it's been proven by law to be unconstitutional for the last 30 years, yet it never changes, is that we are getting no extra money to educate those 300 students because we are capped in our formula for funding. So now, if you look at, what did I say, it was $8,300 per student to educate them. We just got 300 moved in and no new funds to help educate them. So that becomes the problem with the formula for funding. So we are looking for feedback from our community, from our parents, from anybody who would like to give their 2 cents. Attending a meeting is very difficult. If it's Monday night and you're a busy parent, you might still be doing basketball, you might start some indoor baseball. Don't hesitate to email or call or ask for any information you need. This is your community. These are your tax dollars. Another piece that we've tried to get is I'm going to parochial schools. I've been to St. Ignatius and St. James, our 2 biggest. There's a lot of those folks who don't realize that the district spends about $4 million on parochial schools. We have to, as required by law, we pay $1.8 million for scholarships to parochial schools. What are these scholarships for? If their son or daughter's in our district and decide they don't want to attend here and they go to a parochial school, they can apply for a John Peter scholarship. That's $1.8 million we're giving there. That's to help students with disabilities. Heidi Stickney, Chris Langford, Assistant Treasurer, Heidi Stickney, who's our Special Ed Director, and Valerie Watson and Jenny Bless, all hire, evaluate, and place employees into the parochial schools. On top of that, we provide busing at the tune of about $3.2 million a year. If we can't bus them where they are, they apply for money in lieu of transportation, and they get paid a monthly fee because that's what their tax dollars cover. So we do spend a lot on parochials. I think it's also one of the good things about this district. There is great school choice everywhere. Any questions about that piece before I move to the new schools? And I know it's a lot to throw at you. Yes?
The 300 students that came in, did they come in at the beginning of the school year or later on in the school year?
We have to do an enrollment report in October, and in October, when we send out our total attendance, 300 new students have moved in since last year. And we're very transient, so out of 9,000 students, 18 to 20% every year change. So let's take Northwest High School, it's 1,000 kids, 200 of those kids are changing every year because of transiency. So that affects us, but the new movement is we're staying stable, we're gaining new kids, so that's a good thing, but the state funding is not helping us with that. The new schools and how everything's going. Again, I think we missed it on the administration part big time. It has not been what we would have liked it to have been. Also, remember about a year ago, we redistricted, and that affected a lot of folks. Realize that every day we bus 6,000 out of 9,000 students. We totally did not do a good job with transportation this year, and all I can do is apologize for that at the beginning of the year. It did not run like we wanted to. Bus stops were not where they were supposed to be. We had some houses where we pass a kid, come back past the kid, and pick them up on the third trip by. I can tell you we have new supervision and new leadership in our transportation department. Bob Engel, who was in transportation for many, many years in this district, is now in charge of transportation, along with a young man who's going to be phenomenal, Thomas Gray, who comes from Cincinnati Public and who was used to busing a lot more students than we have. So the two of them working together have been riding buses with the bus drivers, checking routes, making sure bus stops are in place. The other things we've changed is we hope by the end of the year you'll be able to take your phone out and you'll be able to see what street your bus is on and what arrival time they will be there. So we've got an app that we think would be friendly user for parents. It's very difficult when you know you have to be to work at 8. You need that bus to be there at 7:30 so you can get to work on time. So we think this app will help folks out there. We've also put sonars on our buses, and that's what they're using. So the sonar is a satellite that will track where it is, show you what street it's coming on, and give you an approximate arrival time. You can also log on next year and get your bus passes in advance. We hope those are ready to go by August 1, 2, or 3. Bus drivers are going to go out and drive the routes in advance to make sure we're not doing any of this anymore. Should have been done last year. All I can tell you is it wasn't done, and that's why we're changing leadership. So I think you'll see improved changes there. The new schools themselves, we continue to see great things out of our kids. If you go into PRE, and if there's ever a time you'd like to tour PRE, I don't care if you're by yourself or if two of you want to come, if you will contact me, I will gladly tour you through the new buildings. I will try to make sure that one of our work sessions ends up at Taylor and one ends up at PRE as we move on, because that was the board's wish. They'd like to get out into the schools. And so if you want to attend one of those work sessions, we'll do it there. But we have teachers who are leaving what used to be walls between classrooms open. It's an open environment. The kids are thriving, but it takes a lot of time for adults to adjust. So think about a teacher who was in one place for 10 years, was used to teaching with these 5 people for 10 years, and then we redistrict and we have to divide them up. It takes time for them to build a team and get back to where they need to be. We have had a lot of questions about PRE and some of the parking. So we've done studies on the parking. The parking was built as the same as 220 schools who were built in Ohio over the past 5 years. There's a formula you use to calculate how many spots you need. Those are put in there. I can tell you at the beginning of the year, though, it was a disaster. If you went to open house at PRE, people were parked in the mud, stuck in the mud, couldn't find a parking spot, and it's because our administrators did not communicate. We had one school have open house, and then a half an hour later the other started. There was not enough parking. We had Christmas concerts, and this one, if we'd have had the concert by itself at PRE, everything would have been fine. But they scheduled a tri-wrestling match with 2 other schools at PRMS, and it continued to cause problems. So what we're going to do from now to the end of the year is try any all-school event that PTA would like to try, see what we get, and we have priced out an additional parking lot that would run about $450,000. An additional road down to Hamilton Avenue would run an additional $400,000. So that's almost $1 million for additional parking spaces. What I'd like to see us do is make sure our administrators communicate to each other, which they've slipped a couple times, but to see what we can do from now to the end of the year with events, and then see if we can somehow not spend that money, because if we have to move money from the general fund to buy additional parking spots, that's going to affect what we have to do with money. Any questions or concerns you have about the new schools, or things you'd like to bring up or you'd like to ask?
Do you have a right-of-way for that road coming down from the school to...
We would have a right-of-way because we, down in Hamilton, we own all that property right now. And that's the other thing. If you know anybody that's interested in PRE, I personally, and my business director, thought it would be the most valuable property we have, and people would flock. There is absolutely no interest whatsoever. That's dividing it up, that's selling it as a whole, so on and so forth. But yes, we do have a right-of-way. One pattern has it coming in where the entry is off PRE to the left side and swerving down, and the other is coming down a side entrance and going. Yes?
That's what I was gonna ask you about. Has that property been sold yet? You said-
No. Right now, we've moved the Mighty Knights down there, and so they, as you go down to, look down the hill from PRE, the left-hand side, we left that parking lot there, so Mighty Knight can continue to use that property. When you get to football season, they were causing a lot more traffic at night. If you had an event at 6, you got Mighty Knights practicing here, and the Mighty Knights deserve a field just like everywhere else, but there's just not enough space. So we'd like to flatten that area more, maybe make it into a soccer field. If you could put baseball fields on the corner, because I love hearing about baseball teams, 14 baseball and softball teams. That gets kids active, it gets them busy. And if we could use that property and flatten it out more, which I think we can, and then put more fields up there. I mean, right now, there's really not a place for either high school to practice soccer. Coleraine doesn't like to practice on their field because they only have one field and it tears up if it rains. Northwest has a half a field, so sometimes Colerane's on a half a field that's not even lined, and Northwest is always on a half a field if you look in front of Northwest High School and Pittman. So we need space. That becomes a big problem. Yes?
Are you saying that that property is not up for sale?
It is for sale. We don't have anybody interested in it at this time.
So are you going to sell all of it?
We would sell it in partials, we would sell all, we would try to do anything we could to move the property. Because it's going to be a maintenance cost to keep the grass cut and all that, and so the good thing with the Mighty Knights and the youth organizations, as you guys are talking, volunteers will come and help cut the lines. We don't care to help with that either. We can initially cut the field and line it. We just need people for places in our community to practice. They play all their games now at Northwest High School. The turf has been awesome, but it comes down to you need practice places every night.
I have a question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the 3 elementary schools are near or at capacity with enrollment. With the additional people moving into the district, are the schools big enough to move forward, or are we going to have to redistrict again?
So if you look at current projections, one school's sitting at 940, and that's current enrollment. One's at 908, and one's at 906. If you look at the next 10-year projection, our enrollment's going down. So we are also close to having enough money to build a K-8 campus for Coleraine L. That would take overflow. We have $17 million in a bank account waiting for us. It didn't come from taxpayer dollars. We decided to join OFCC through the state of Ohio. They came into our schools and said, if you'll build them to these recommendations, and if you'll let us know what you did, we will give you money for a new K-8 campus. So we have $17 million because we went with the larger kindergarten rooms, we went with the better square footage for our classrooms. And if we can raise an additional $5 million, which we're trying to do through partnerships. And when I say partnerships, Todd, what do you mean by that? If you've ever been to Mason High School, you see that they have, I don't know if it's Mercy Health, but they have a atrium, I believe is who's out there. If you look at the new Glenesti Amelia High School, which is called West Claremont High School, they have a partnership. So we are trying to build a partnership where in the middle of our district, we could put a hospital attached to a K-8 campus, allow our kids to come through for physicals for all our athletes, partner with the township maybe, and have the fire and police be able to go through there, but also put a health clinic in there for any of our families to be able to get to with their kids. So if we could find that partnership and expand it a little bit, that's some of the things we're looking to do also in terms of trying to raise that money. Because that, our turn, so there's 610 school districts. You're on a cycle of whoever has the least amount of money or who has the poorest goes first. We've been on this waiting list for about 15 years. Our numbers get ready to come up in the next year or two. When it does, we have to find a way to match the money that we need for them. So the money we make from the Welch property and the Beavis property, which is about $560,000, goes into that pot with the Coleraine Middle School K-8 building. If we can raise the remainder of the $5 million that we need, we would be able to build that, and then there would never be an overcrowding issue. And then we need to continue to look at what can we do at Coleraine High School or Northwest High School to make better uses of our spaces. We put the blended labs in at Northwest High School, but they're not being used as blended labs per se. But I think the part you need to be aware of is there is a high school redesign team out there. And so if you think about when your kids get to high school, and this is exciting to think about. Now, if your kid's an athlete, you might be, well, Todd, you're the biggest dummy I know. Well, think of it this way. Your kid needs 20 credits to graduate. A good kid's going to get 6.5 his freshman year because of health and PE. But if they want to, they could take that in 8th grade or in summer school and get that out of the way. So you could go 7 credits. You could go 7 your sophomore year, 7 your junior. You're at 21 going into your senior year. You don't have to stay in high school. You could enroll in college early as one option. Second option would be to go through AP classes or CCP classes, and we have kids who are leaving high school and have their first year of college completed basically free of charge. So there are great opportunities out there. Butler Tech has many kids who are leaving their programs and they're going in, and this is the part I don't get. So the frustrating thing for me is I'm a Northwest grad, and I hate going through Wendy's and saying, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm working here. Why didn't you go to school? I don't know. I didn't want to take out loans. Well, did you think about Butler Tech when you were in high school? Well, no, I never wanted to do that. So to me, life-changing is a salary of $50,000 or more. We have welders who we can't fill the program who are starting at $60,000 a year. We have machinists who they come into Colerain High School, and this is an opportunity for both kids. They are recruiting these kids, handing them cards and saying, I will hire you for $70,000 a year. I will pay for your 2 years at any college that we approve of, and you are hired full-time. And we can't fill the programs. So I'm trying to figure out what is the block, or what is the piece that is causing our kids not to take advantage of these opportunities. We've moved Butler Tech down to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so they're getting a little bit of experience there. But if you can't look me in the face as a kid and tell me, all right, the best day at Wendy's, flipping burgers, 40 hours a week, I'm going to make $18,000 a year. If you can't tell me $70,000 a year is not life-changing, what do we need to tell these kids? And these are the type of opportunities we're trying to supply for them. They can go through law enforcement. They could go into criminal justice. They could go into being a police officer. They could go into firefighting. All of these come with college credits, and all of them come with career-ready pathways. We have a cosmetology program that it stays at about 25 or 28, and a lot of these programs have to do with who's the instructor. Are there somebody the kids can relate to? So Butler Tech has made it a major concern of theirs to make sure they are hiring teachers that can relate to kids, because a lot of Butler Tech teachers work in the real, I don't know what you would call it, some are engineers, some are beauticians. She's like, I don't want to do hair anymore, but I would love to teach kids how to do hair. A construction manager who works for a company, he comes in and runs our construction. We've got construction people that come and try to recruit our kids out of our construction problem at Northwest, and they can't get enough kids to fill the program. We've got 15 and it'll hold 30. So we have many, many opportunities, and hopefully this high school redesign will allow some flexibility. Butler Tech's moving to a totally different thing next year. Their kids will only go to school second semester 4 days a week. The 5th day is to go out and work internships and work jobs. So now they can see I can go to school and I can make money. This is why I need to stay in this program. So our high school redesign team will look at something like that also. They are looking at different program or bringing back honors programs where 50 to 75 or 100 kids will go through the same program, and those are the kids they'll see as they move through. Just trying to get different pathways into a 2-year college, into a 4-year college, or directly into the workforce. So there's lots of good things going on, but to continue to go on, unfortunately we're going to have to continue to talk about 11. Whether we talk about it or not, we're going to continue to do what's best for our kids. So lots of good things going on. Some of you have been at board meetings, and I've seen you there, and you know, some of the kids that, the parents that I see sitting around here are the kids we want to brag about all the time. So it's great opportunities, but yeah, we have some things we still need to fix and some things we need to do better, yes.
How much will the levy that you're proposing cost for $100,000?
We have no idea. We haven't got that deep. So we would, look at do you need a 4 mil, a 5 mil, a 6 mil, or a 7 mil. The other thing we'll look at is if we pass a 5 mil levy, how long before you come back to me again and say, need another levy? I think that's very important because there's voter burnout on passing levies. So we've got to look at that. We're going to review that yet. We hope to have that by May. And then starting in August, we would come around and talk to everybody again. But right now, we're just looking for people who live in our district for feedback. If you can't make the meeting, that doesn't matter to us. Watch it, see if there's a question you have about any part of the meeting. Email us. We'll be glad to get you your answer out. If there's any of you who have little small meetings outside of this, Daryl, Amy Wells, our treasurer, myself, will come to any small meetings outside of the Pleasant Home Farm meetings also.
I just have a question. Guidance and education. Do you bring in some of the parents to talk to the kids about what field these parents are in? Like you bring a welder into the classes, and you
So with something like that, we have kids who graduated from the welding program come back. We have the adults come in and tell them why they want to hire them. We have a career day at both schools where our parents are brought in and they have classrooms blocked off and the kids rotate to these sections to find out what career pathways are. But we find the best way to recruit are parents, former students, or people who have expertise in the field.
Any other questions? Thank you, Todd. And again, I want to thank Wendy and Todd. We really appreciate you coming and filling us in. And thank you all for coming.
Sign in, make sure you signed in.
Yes, please make sure you've signed in so that we can have you on our list.